Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. And in her case, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it.
Imagine a sports commentator not just offering analysis, but erupting in pure, unadulterated fury. That's what happened when Stephen A. Smith took to the airwaves. It wasn't a measured critique, it was a verbal tirade, a full-blown explosion of frustration directed squarely at the WNBA. He wasn't just stirring the pot, he was detonating a verbal bomb, and the shrapnel was aimed at the very heart of the league's leadership. This wasn't going to be polite sports talk. This was a declaration of war on what he perceived as gross mismanagement.
Caitlin Clark, the people's champion! Let's get it!
That's a deep one.
Bang!
Just announced that Caitlin Clark and the Fever will be playing 41 of 44 games this year on national TV. Hey, come in and watch the other girl, right?
Right? Bang!
Teams are moving their games with the Fever to NBA arenas so they can sell more tickets. How about that?
Bang!
Angel Reese attempted a three this deep. I think she might dislocate her shoulder.
Bang!
You want some butter with that bread? Butter. Butter.
Butter pecan! Bang!
Smith didn't mince words. He put the WNBA brass on blast, and it wasn't a gentle tap, it was a full-force assault. His core accusation was stark and damning, lukewarm treatment of their most valuable asset. He wasn't talking about a veteran player in a slump, he was talking about a rookie sensation, a once-in-a-generation talent, Caitlin Clark. In Smith's eyes, the league wasn't just failing to capitalize, they were actively undermining their own potential. This was a direct challenge to the decision-makers, a public indictment of their strategy, or lack thereof.
You didn't want to, rather. You were a bit hesitant and reluctant and resistant to it. So much so you didn't push for her to be on Team USA. So much so you had people like Cheryl Swoops who didn't even want to mention her name.
This wasn't just another ESPN hot take destined to fade by the next news cycle. Smith's rant resonated because it transcended typical sports commentary. It felt like righteous indignation, a moral outcry against a perceived injustice. He framed it as a righteous takedown of how women's basketball at a pivotal crossroads was on the verge of botching its biggest opportunity in decades. He wasn't just discussing wins and losses, he was talking about a cultural moment, a chance to elevate an entire sport, and he saw it being squandered in real time. This gave his words weight and urgency, transforming a sports segment into something much more significant.
And everybody talking about other WNBA players not being appreciated. Nobody insulted them. Nobody dismissed their contribution. We were simply saying, despite the contributions for years and years and years, a lot of people didn't care. Fair or not, until Caitlin Clark came along.
Then came Caitlin Clark, but she wasn't just another player. She arrived as the people's champion. This wasn't media hype, it was organic, fan-driven enthusiasm. Her arrival wasn't just about her dazzling court skills. It was about a genuine connection with the audience, a sense that she represented something bigger than herself. She embodied a fresh energy, an underdog spirit, and an undeniable charisma that captivated fans far beyond the usual basketball circles. She wasn't just joining a league, she was igniting a movement.
The league treated her with a shrug, no press splits, no highlight reel rollouts, just a quiet little phone call to tell her she won Rookie of the Year. Meanwhile, lesser accolades for veteran players come with confetti and catered events.
They decided that they were going to let her know she was Rookie of the Year with a phone call in Connecticut during a practice before a playoff game. You can't make this up.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Clark's resume already includes accolades like Forbes 30 Under 30, SBJ Sportsperson of the Year, AP Female Athlete of the Year, Time Athlete of the Year, and has even taken the initiative to boost women's sports through high-profile appearances and speaking engagements.
41 out of 44 games on national TV. Let those numbers sink in for a rookie in the WNBA. This wasn't just good scheduling, it was national TV domination, a reflection of the undeniable, overwhelming demand to see Caitlin Clark play. Networks weren't just guessing, they were following the data, the social media buzz, the ticket sales. They knew where the eyeballs were going, and every metric pointed towards Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. This wasn't just exposure. It was a takeover of the airwaves, a testament to her magnetic pull.
But if you went the opposite direction, it could have helped that much and facilitated you being in an even stronger position to get yours. But you didn't do it. You didn't do it. Wow.
Suddenly, WNBA teams weren't just booking their usual venues, they started moving fever games to NBA arenas. Why the sudden venue upgrade? Simple, brutally honest reason: they can sell more tickets. This wasn't just a marginal increase, it was an economic earthquake. Clark's impact wasn't confined to the box score, it was shaking up the financial foundations of the league. This was raw economic power, undeniable and immediate, forcing teams to adapt to a level of demand they'd rarely, if ever, seen before.
There seems to be some haterade in the league in regards to Clark starting with WNBA legend Cheryl Swoops herself.
Enter Angel Reese, and instantly a rivalry was born. But it wasn't just any rivalry, it was a cultural flashpoint. Reese's on-court comment, the now infamous "you want some butter with that bread," wasn't just trash talk, it became a viral firestorm. It ignited social media, fueled debates, and amplified the already intense spotlight on both players and the league itself. This wasn't just sports competition, it was compelling drama, reality TV unfolding live on the court, and it further cemented the narrative that something electric was happening in the WNBA, largely driven by Clark.
You know basketball. You know basketball. You know basketball. You know basketball better than me. You know basketball than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it. You know that. Stop it.
Caitlin Clark is doing what no WNBA player has done before. These weren't just inflated claims, they were statements grounded in reality. She wasn't just incrementally improving the league, she was creating an unprecedented impact, a before and after moment in WNBA history. She wasn't just putting up impressive stats, she was fundamentally altering the perception, the popularity, and the potential of women's basketball. This wasn't just about individual brilliance, it was about a transformative force reshaping an entire sport.
I believe there was actually a debate on who was Rookie of the Year last year. Imagine being that delusional. Bang! People need to understand she saved this league. Powder, there's no TV deals, no ad sponsorships, heck, no shoe deals for you, Angel Reese, no McDonald's money. The league losing millions of dollars each year. She saved them from bankruptcy. Time to be grateful. Bang! 93% of her games on national TV. She's like that. Bang!
Millions. That single word encapsulates the magnitude of Clark's effect. Millions of eyes suddenly glued to the WNBA. This wasn't just about retaining existing fans, it was about expanding the audience exponentially, drawing in viewers who had previously ignored or overlooked women's basketball entirely. She was bridging gaps, breaking down barriers, and tapping into a vast, untapped market of sports enthusiasts. This wasn't just growth, it was an audience explosion, fueled by her unique appeal and undeniable talent.
3 WNBA MVPs in your career. Would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
Man, I can't. Bro, Cheryl Swoops is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant.
Arenas weren't just filling up, they were packing arenas like it's the NBA Finals. This wasn't just about ticket sales, it was about atmosphere, the palpable electric atmosphere that Clark generated wherever she played. It was the roar of the crowd, the buzz in the stands, the feeling that you were witnessing something truly special, something historic. This wasn't just attendance, it was an experience, a spectacle that transcended the game itself, making WNBA games must-see events.
Then are you willing to admit how stupid it was for y'all not to go all in speaking your piece to elevate Caitlin Clark? So therefore even more attention could have come and y'all could have reaped the benefits? Now you're gonna do it anyway, and I get that, but you see my point?
She was making women's hoops cool for an entirely new generation. This wasn't just about increasing viewership numbers, it was about achieving cultural relevancy, injecting the WNBA into the mainstream conversation, making it a topic of discussion around water coolers and on social media feeds. She was shifting perceptions, shattering stereotypes, and making women's basketball not just respected, but genuinely cool in the eyes of a broader audience, particularly younger demographics. This was about long-term cultural impact, not just short-term ratings spikes.
I said Caitlin Clark, rising tide lifts all boats. As much as her presence was maximized by the WNBA, you players could have done more to assist it.
Yet, amidst this explosive growth, the WNBA under Commissioner Engelbert seemed to be moving in slow motion. This wasn't just a matter of pace, it was a disconnect from reality, a failure to grasp the urgency and scale of the moment. The excitement was palpable, the opportunity immense, but the league's response felt sluggish, bureaucratic, and utterly out of sync with the electric energy Clark was generating. This wasn't just slow, it was a potentially fatal delay, a missed beat in a critical moment.
I noticed when you're asking about Caitlin a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
Adding to the confusion, legends like Cheryl Swoops, instead of celebrating the surge, were seemingly throwing cold water on the fire she started. This wasn't just constructive criticism, it felt like internal resistance, a pushback against the very phenomenon that could elevate the league to new heights. Swoop's comments, downplaying Clark's impact and suggesting she was overhyped, sparked controversy and fueled the narrative of veteran players feeling threatened or overshadowed. This wasn't just sideline commentary, it was a potential fracturing of unity at a critical juncture.
One white, one black. And so we have that moment with these two. But the one thing I know about sports, you need rivalry. That's what makes people watch. They want to watch games of consequence between rivals. They don't want everybody being nice to one another.
Smith pointedly noted Swoops didn't even want to mention her name when discussing the Indiana Fever. This wasn't just an oversight, it was a perceived snub, a deliberate omission that amplified the sense of gatekeeping within the WNBA establishment. It fueled the narrative that some veterans were actively trying to minimize Clark's impact, protect their own legacies, and maintain a hierarchy that Clark's rapid ascent threatened to disrupt. This wasn't just about basketball, it was about power dynamics and the resistance to change within a long-established system.
It's a balance, but certainly from a marketing dollars, but corporate partners are stepping up to endorse these players, much more so than they were 5 years ago.
Smith's core charge was brutal and direct, the league's failure to capitalize on a moment that could fundamentally change the WNBA's visibility and revenue forever. This wasn't just a minor misstep, it was a strategic blunder of epic proportions, a missed opportunity with potentially long-lasting negative consequences. He argued that the WNBA was failing to seize the moment, to leverage Clark's popularity to attract sponsors, expand media deals, and solidify its place in the mainstream sports landscape. This wasn't just about short-term gains, it was about securing the league's future prosperity, and Smith saw them fumbling the ball at the goal line.
And Caitlin Clark gets hit with a technical. After
I got a technical for basically being mad at myself because I missed the three and then I went and hit the backboard, and he told me it was disrespectful to the game of basketball. So
in a league desperately craving mainstream attention, they were practically sleepwalking through the Caitlin Clark revolution. This wasn't just passive inaction. It was tone-deaf leadership, a failure to recognize and respond to a seismic shift happening right before their eyes. The energy, the excitement, the potential for transformative growth, it was all there, palpable and undeniable, yet the league's leadership seemed oblivious, detached, or unwilling to fully engage. This wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a demonstration of a profound disconnect between the reality on the ground and the decision-making at the top.
Put Michaela on your wet A in that group. Kennedy Carter nearly picks off the pass, and Diana Taurasi, they'll count the bucket. And one coming up for DT.
According to Smith, this wasn't just bad strategy or incompetence, it was outright self-sabotage. This wasn't just strong language, it was a devastating accusation, suggesting that the WNBA wasn't just making mistakes, they were actively hurting themselves, undermining their own chances for success. He argued that by failing to embrace Clark, by downplaying her impact, and by not actively promoting her, the league was intentionally or unintentionally diminishing its own value, its own potential, and its own future. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a potentially self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, and the one thing as a very long-term sports fan I know is that officiating and refereeing is always at the top of a fan's list, of the media's list. Obviously, not every, they're humans.
Let's talk brass tacks. Smith shifted from fiery rhetoric to cold, hard facts. Clark wasn't just hype, she was the real deal. Rookie of the Year was practically a foregone conclusion. First-team WNBA in her very first season became a legitimate possibility. These weren't just projections, they were already accumulating undeniable achievements, on-court accomplishments that backed up the buzz and silenced any lingering doubts about her talent and impact. This wasn't just about potential, it was about proven performance at the highest level.
Don't tell me Caitlin Clark gets a special whistle ever again. One call was an ejection and the other was a common foul. Now, let's replay this one more damn time. So y'all can see right here. This was the exact same damn play. Look, same play, bro. Look at this. Are you serious right here? Boom. Same play.
Crushed by Williams at
Same play.
half-court.
Now, Grant Williams was ejected for that.
She wasn't just a standout rookie, she was the face of a WNBA surge that's making headlines globally. Her impact transcended the confines of the sport, reaching into the broader cultural consciousness, attracting international attention, and solidifying her status as a global icon. This wasn't just domestic popularity, it was a worldwide phenomenon, with media outlets from around the globe reporting on the Caitlin Clark effect. She wasn't just elevating the WNBA in America, she was putting women's basketball on the global map in a way never seen before.
This league could actually be that dense. Professional league, guys. We're not talking about a rec league. We're not talking about even a high school team. Nobody believes that anybody is that clueless.
The WNBA's method of announcing the Rookie of the Year award to Clark? A quiet little phone call. This wasn't a grand ceremony, a televised event, or even a press conference. It was a seemingly perfunctory, almost dismissive, underwhelming recognition of a historic achievement. This starkly contrasted with the lavish celebrations often afforded to veteran players for lesser accolades, highlighting a perceived disparity in how the league valued and promoted its stars, particularly its newest, brightest one. This wasn't just about a phone call, it was about a symbolic lack of appreciation for a player who was single-handedly transforming the league.
Such an incredible moment on a global scale.
The phone call anecdote
for
became
our game,
more than
for
just
our
a
players.
trivial detail. It transformed into
It's
a
like the
symbol
fans
of
are
the
absolutely
absurdity
incredible.
of the situation.
It's the same when we go on the road. Like there's so many people that are showing up in fever gear. It's really affecting teams all across our league, which is a really great thing.
It encapsulated
And,
the frustration,
really, I think
the disbelief, and the growing sense that the WNBA was inexplicably failing to grasp the golden opportunity presented by Caitlin Clark. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a comedic, almost tragic miscalculation of epic proportions. Clark's resume extended far beyond basketball accolades. Forbes 30 Under 30 Time Athlete of the Year. These weren't just sports awards. They were acknowledgments of her broader cultural impact, her influence extending into business, entertainment, and the wider societal conversation. These prestigious honors underscored her reach beyond the basketball court, solidifying her status as a significant figure in the cultural landscape, not just a sports star. This wasn't just about athletic achievement, it was about cultural phenomenon status. The league's entire business model is now orbiting around her. This wasn't hyperbole, it was an undeniable economic reality, a fundamental shift in the WNBA's financial ecosystem. Her presence was driving ticket sales, boosting TV ratings, attracting sponsors, and generating a level of revenue that the league had rarely, if ever, seen before. Yet, despite this clear and quantifiable economic dependence, the WNBA seemed afraid to admit it, hesitant to fully embrace the power and potential of its new central figure. This wasn't just a suggestion, it was a statement of economic fact that the league seemed strangely reluctant to acknowledge. Clark is undeniably a generational player, a talent who comes along once in a lifetime, but instead of being celebrated and championed, the league acted like she's an inconvenience. This wasn't just a misread of the situation, it was a profound misunderstanding of her value, a failure to recognize that her arrival was a gift, not a burden. This perception of resistance, of seeing her as a disruption rather than an asset, was deeply troubling to fans and analysts alike, fueling the narrative of a league struggling to adapt to its own success. This wasn't just about basketball strategy, it was about a fundamental misjudgment of a transformative force. Smith's rant wasn't just criticism, it was a wake-up call, a desperate plea for the WNBA to recognize the gravity of the moment. The league stood at a critical juncture, facing a defining choice: elevate Caitlin Clark and ride the unprecedented wave of momentum, or watch from the sidelines as the biggest moment in WNBA history passes them by. This wasn't just a fork in the road, it was a pivotal moment of truth, a decision that would determine not just the immediate future, but the long-term trajectory of the entire league. The future of the WNBA in many ways hinged on whether they would seize this golden opportunity or let it slip through their fingers.